Okay, and so in the last video we answered question 1. What happens as the response rate increases? Well, profit's going to linearly increase. Well, the next thing is, what is the break-even response rate? So the break-even response rate is, when do we hit zero profit? So we threw everything in that we needed to get the absolute zero. We're not losing any money, but we're not making any money. And so what we're going to do on that is we're going to go back to our data tab. We're going to go back to our what if analysis, but instead of using the data table, we're going to use this function here called goal seek. So goal seek is really nice. It's an easy function to use. It's got some limited value, but it's good for a very specific thing. And a lot of times that is break-even analysis. So we've only got 3 questions in this. We need to, we have a cell that we need to set to what value by changing what cell. So the cell that we're trying to set is profit. I want Excel to vary around with the equation to change that profit to a certain number. And that number in this case will be 0. So what I'm telling Excel is I want to know what I have to do to get 0 by changing what cell. And the cell that we're going to change is the response rate. So what Excel is going to do is it's going to keep varying this one variable right here until this profit matches what I put in here, which is 0. I hit OK, and it starts to change things, and it's done. So if I get a response rate of 5.77% with my number of responses, my revenue that I'm going to gain and my profit, my costs are going to equal out, so 0 profit. If you notice our question number 1, where we have our analysis, none of this changed because we did from 1 to 10 already. It just runs the same equation again, varying that, so it's going to give us the same answers. Remember that 7% was 9,600, and so here 5.77. That should make sense because if we look at it, 5% itself would be losing $6,000 and 6% would be making $1,800. So it's right in there. And if we look at this graphically there, we can see that, yeah, that makes sense. 5.77 looks like it's going to be crossing right through there. So the answer to question 1 was profit as the response rate increases. Profit increases. Question 2 was, what's the break-even point? Well, the break-even response rate is 5.77%. And question 3, if we look back at the prompt, question 3, if the company estimates a response rate of 3%, should it proceed with the mailing? So if I go to 3, and we'll leave it, notice that since there is no text there, it justifies to the right if it's because it's a number. If there is text involved within it, it justifies to the left because it's a text string. So if I look at 3% response rate, we're going to lose $21,600. So going back here, that if the response rate is 3%, no, the campaign should not be undertaken. Because we are going to lose $21,000. $21,600 actually. And if we're in the business to make money, losing $20,000 means that it's a unsuccessful marketing campaign. So once again, here is an example of how we can use operations and just this analytical quantitative methods to figuring out solutions to problems. If we don't think that we're going to get a response rate of greater than 5.77%, we should not do this, because anything below that is we're going to lose money. Now, we have this whole sheet set up. Well, let's say that we found a different printer, and we can get the variable, we can flog some of the money out of the variable cost, and so the variable cost goes down to $15,000. So that changes things. Now I changed one of my input variables and notice everything changed for me. My one-way data table changed, my response rate graph changed. So we can see our break-even point is a little bit different. It's still between 5 and 6%. Now the goal seek, it did not change because the goal seek is a one-time iterative process. It is not something that completely keeps calculating. If I wanted to find out what the break-even is, if I had a different cost of printing, I have to go back through everything here and say, okay, I want to set that value to 0 by changing my response rate. And that reruns it again. And so now if I can flog $5,000 out of the fixed cost of printing, my break-even point, now I'm down to 5 1/8% number of respondents. But aside from that, everything else changes. So if I take it to 20,000, let's say I mail to, and here's why I like having the commas in there, because, okay, that was 100,000. Let's make that 200,000. Let's double the number of them, and I can see what's going on. And I can see that if I'm sending out $200,000, my break-even point, let's see, does it change? So we can go back to data, what if analysis, goal seek, and I want to make it 0 by changing this cell, and we rerun it again. And see, if I double the order, I only need 4.5% to come up to break even. And then once again, if I go to 3%, I'm losing even more money if I have a 3% after doubling the amount of mailing. So this Excel's really handy for being able to make these kind of adjustments and take a look at things.